A delegation from Abbotsford coming down the hill, and so with their arrival, we're ready to go. Last night in Abbotsford, there was a death on the streets, and the regular routine in the morning was the bylaw officers sweeping the streets and pushing people out of their tents, forcing them to take them down and carry all their worldly possessions on their backs from one place to another without ever being able to settle anywhere. Seeing the news of the brutality of the bylaw officers and police every day in Abbotsford is a powerful reminder of why we need tent cities. That Anita Place is a defense. It might not be housing, it might not be an adequate defense against the elements, and it might not mean there's no police harassment and no danger from bigots, but it is a defense against the worst of the violence that's wrought by the government of Canada against homeless people. So when we fight to defend Anita Place Tent City, it's wonderful to have people from Abbotsford, from the Abbotsford Association of Drug War Survivors, BC Yukon Association of Drug War Survivors, and to also have a delegation here from the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users from the big city. Because standing together as communities that are similarly impacted by the crises, economic crises and social crises of capitalism, and the crises of colonialism that dispossess Indigenous peoples of their lands and force them into the streets at a rate almost 10 times that of what non-Native people experience. We stand here together because homelessness is not an issue of Maple Ridge. It's not an issue of any one community on its own. It's a social crisis that is tearing Canada apart. And if we should continue to tear at those seams in order to create a world that we can actually stand in and be proud of, that values human life above profits and people's communities above property.
That's right! Yeah!
Now, to formally begin, I want to invite up Jen Allen of the Tlingit Nation in order to do a territorial acknowledgement of the peoples whose lands that we're standing on.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Jen. I'm from the Tlingit Nation from the Yukon. And I want to take this time to just acknowledge that we're standing on unceded territories belonging to the Kwantlen Nation and the Kitsi Nation, the Katsi Nation. And so just take this time and to remember all the injustice that happened to these people here. Just take time to remember it and acknowledge what happened here in all my relations.
Now in our rally here today, we're going to hear speakers about the crisis that's happening here at Anita Place Tent City, the absurd police attack, the 2-day-long police assault on this camp that happened last weekend that ended with 6 arrests in order to seize one man's heater. We're going to hear about the evacuation that was ordered by the BC Fire Commissioner that is unappealable through legal processes, but is being resisted here today with this rally outside the camp gates. And we're going to hear about what the solutions to the homelessness crisis really are. But we're going to call for the province to intervene in the local culture of Maple Ridge that is run by the hate of bigots that wants to drive homeless people irrationally out of their community into the Fraser River or up into the sky, but does not want to see them land in housing. We're going to call for the province of British Columbia to intervene in the politics of Maple Ridge and build homes, not shelters. To buy this apartment building that is being constructed across the street from the camp, that is being built as market rental housing. The province of BC can buy this housing, stepping over the power of the local authority of the city of Maple Ridge without having to apply for zoning and run it as social housing for people who are living on welfare and pension. We're calling for the province of British Columbia to step in and stop the police assault on Anita Place Tent City, to stop dealing with homelessness with police repression and start dealing with it by building housing. And immediately we're calling on the province of British Columbia to intervene and install electricity for every single site in Anita Place Tent City in order to provide safer electric heating to every tent and every structure so that people are not forced to use risky means of heating in order to survive, and to give a clear message that the lives of homeless people matter, to push back against the tides of the far right that say that homeless people are not human beings and deserve the deaths that constantly await them around every turn. The province of British Columbia has to stand up against these local currents and support people who are fighting to survive here in this camp. Just 1 second. We're going to get to Maple Ridge bylaws. They can install it and they can do it by their bylaws. They have the power to do it, but they have the power to do it legally and safely. It's a political decision. That's right. So our first speaker is going to be Justin, who's a longtime resident of Anita Place, Tent City. And he's going to talk about the most important demand.
All right. Without a safe place for us to live, all you're doing is dooming everybody. Everybody who's into opiate use, everybody who chooses to use by themselves. We need affordable housing. We need a building. We need something where we can house these people where they're not just going to drop from overdose and end up dead. We need numbers. The safety is in numbers. And when it comes to this kind of substance abuse, that's exactly what you need. Without it, you're literally sentencing them to a death sentence. It's exactly what it is. They can't survive. No, but giving us numbers, in fact, in one isolated area will allow us to protect each other like we've done for 2 years this entire time. You know how many people have dropped down and would have ended up dead had they been out on the streets like these people want, like the city wants? A retarded amount of people. When I stayed at the shelter, when I stayed at the Salvation Army, they had a wall full of pictures of people who were dead. It was something like 40 people that took up that wall before they had to start putting them elsewhere. Now all those people died because we didn't have Narcan and because we didn't have people in tent cities to be able to protect each other. We were disbanded. We were kicked out early in the morning. We were forced to use in forests, parks, and wherever we could just to get our high. And then the unlucky ones would overdose. There's nobody there to save them. They're dead. Now we got a sea of bigots and complete idiots perpetuating hate because they're too stupid and too unenlightened to see helping people through a problem is the only way to solve the problem. They would rather fight the problem and cause a never-ending cycle of hate. Another hate, violence is all it's going to keep doing. But they don't care. They're rednecks. They didn't go to school. It's not our fault that you guys are unenlightened. You guys should hate each other for being like that. Why do you hate the homeless? We have a greater knowledge of the law. We have a greater knowledge of drug use and why you should do it, why you shouldn't do it. You guys were just told in school, oh, drugs are bad. You went, okay, and you went along with it. Now, you got no knowledge.
6 years sober,
Hey, ignorant people don't like hearing knowledge and facts thrown in their face. When that happens, they get loud and they start trying to take over because they don't like the truth. The truth hurts. I'm sorry that the truth hurts you. Maybe if you were a little more enlightened and less ignorant, you wouldn't feel this way. Yeah, see ya. Goodbye. It's nice knowing you, but like, your ignorance does nothing but hurt your cause.
For your drug addict with a home.
Let's chant together because we have one voice and one important demand. So what do we want? Homes. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Homes. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Homes. When do we want them? Now. Homes. 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 Now. Thank you, Justin.
I don't know where to start. Our story, our situation is clear cut. We have been forced into a place that's going to close, and whether or not Tent City opens up, it's not the ultimate answer in the end. We need something more. Sure, it's all we have, and we're going to keep going with it. We're not going to give up. We're going to continue to provide a safe place for people to use so they don't have to take the risk of dying. We're going to continue to provide shelter for people fleeing abusive relationships. It's what we do. It's all what we've done for 2 years, and it's all we know. And there are many of us among the group that actually love doing it. It's a good feeling. But when we have haters like these guys, the ones that come over and they hear knowledge and facts and how they're being lied to and mistreated, but they're going along like sheeple, just following the herd. Too dumb to know what they're going. They think they're free. They think they live the land of the free. But that's the biggest joke in human history because there's nothing about living that's free. Every dollar you make, hard-earned dollar that you make, that you sweat and bleed to make, you gets taxed over and over and over again. And that's just our government taking advantage of us. They think if they can keep us dumb enough, that we won't ever know that we're slaves. But that's what we are. We wake up, we are born into this world, and we have to sweat, and our parents have to do this. They have to sacrifice for us. They have to give everything they have to make money in order to support us so we can live and grow up and do the same cycle. It's not right, and I personally do not feel bringing children into a world where they're just going to become a slave. It's not a good world. It's not something I want to do, not something I want a part of. This has to change. Our system is broke for a long time, like seriously broke. When people go to war for our country, and then they come back, and they're given the basic amount of dollars to fucking live on, that's retarded. They fought and bled and died so we can enjoy these freedoms. But then they're swept under the rug and given barely enough to survive, and they're laughed at, they're mistreated, they're disrespected. It's sad. It's another example of why our country, there's so much wrong with it. There's so much wrong with it. I don't want to hear from the bigots, and I don't want to hear from the haters, because you're just ignorant fucks. That's all you are. Go home! You ain't got no fucking likers here, you're fucking unwelcome. Hey, there were some ignorant people down here saying, we want good neighbors. What about what you're doing is being a good neighbor? You're not being a good neighbor whatsoever. You're being a hater. You're being a bigot, and you're just further perpetuating the hate that is wrong with our country. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with perpetuating hate? It's just ignorant. So stupid. These people don't even know what they're saying. They just talk for the fact of talking. Yes, sir? Thank you, sir. So do you agree that they should buy us something more accommodating for the problem? Or are you just, thank you, you wouldn't just see us disbanded. But he's fighting the same side as we are. No, but the system's broke, and because of the system being broken, that's why we are the way we are, and that's why we're here. So he's changed. That's what he was saying. He was saying this isn't the answer. Well, the only reason we're taking this is because it's our only choice, and it keeps people alive. So we're going to keep doing it. I wasn't agreeing that we're going to take off, but I'm saying that even people such as these who are ignorant to our cause don't see the full thing. If he understood fully what we were fighting for,
thank you, Justin. Justin is right. The issue of homelessness is not just something that affects people who are homeless today. Homelessness is an act of violence against working class people who can no longer be productive enough for their bosses. It's an act of violence against indigenous people whose lands have been stolen and they've been pushed out into the absolute most dangerous situation possible. It's an act of violence against people who are being discarded by the system. And anybody who feels the wolves at their door should recognize that if homeless people are not allowed to experience this violence, then they themselves, their families will be safer. If people are not left to fall into the streets but are caught by a safety net that protects them against this social violence, then all of our people benefit. That's why. So we have 3 resolutions that we want to pass today in order to take forward to the provincial government. The 3rd resolution is homes, not prison camps. So I want to read this resolution and then we can pass it by cheering. So it goes, homelessness is a crisis in every community throughout British Columbia. Rather than building social housing for all Indigenous people who are disproportionately impacted by homelessness because of the dual impact of colonialism and capitalism, and all working class people, we are witnessing the provincial government roll out temporary and partial solutions. Supportive housing represents the soft incarceration of homeless people in institutions. Modular housing is a temporary shelter room, not a home. And using court injunctions and police to prison campify and displace tent cities in Saanich and Nanaimo in the fall of 2018, and in Maple Ridge today, is managing homeless people in temporary open-air shelters until police displacement can sweep them under the rug. So we are calling on the provincial government to create permanent social housing, run under the Residential Tenancy Act, in a housing co-op model, not as so-called supportive housing, by buying the apartment building across from Anita Place Tent City on St. Anne Avenue and making its apartments entirely available at welfare pension rates. We are also calling on the province to purchase the Econo Lodge Hotel at 21375 Lougheed to house people today until the apartment is ready, and for ongoing use as transitional housing. We want homes, not prison camps. Now, to explain why supportive housing, or so-called supportive housing, or modular housing is not the solution to homelessness, that this temporary model and shoveling people into soft institutions is not, it treats people as the problem rather than our society as the problem. I want to welcome up Eva Vardanex, who is a longtime resident of Anita Place and a recent resident of supportive housing.
Okay, no idea what I'm going to say, but here it is. New modulars, sure, they're great. They're way warmer. I gotta say, thank God. But at the same time, I get in trouble for having my boyfriend come over. They hold my sister and my boyfriend at the door. They hold him. They don't come and get me. They don't come. They stop doing that. They change the rules as time has gone on. They keep changing the rules on us. Like, I don't want to be in jail. I don't deserve to be in jail. I never asked for that. I asked for semi-supportive housing would make sense. Something that works for us, not something that works for them. Because I'm a human being. I don't deserve to be in jail. I didn't do anything wrong. All I did was ended up homeless. How could I get assaulted? Have some time off? You know, end up not having my finances in order, end up living in the bush, getting stuck where I was. I was stuck. I wasn't a typical drug addict, lose everything. Oh no, I'm not gonna sell everything for my dope, but there's every need for everybody to stick together and help each other, stay alive. It's not right for us to shut the door on people because, oh, they use this, they use that. Oh, who cares what they use? They're human. I have an addiction to Slurpees. Oh my God, it's amazing. My biggest addiction though is food. I bet you all have it too. Yeah. I'm all for it. The more of it, the better. We don't want things handed to us in that sense. Everybody looks at it like we want things handed to us. Nobody wanted anything handed to them. Just actually look at it. Go, this is unreasonable. It's unreasonable. 10 people have to live in a house in order to rent it? Why is that? 10 people. Seriously. That's wrong. I don't know. Semi-supportive housing, possibly at the most. Not this lock them up. Basically, lock them up, keep them safe. That'll keep them safe. No, that keeps us mad. That'll send 90% of us back into the bush or back into the camp. We don't need to be isolated. We need to be together. Always. Keep our doors open. Keep our hearts open. At least we have the open hearts.
When the tent city on the courthouse lawn in Victoria was broken up by court order, the residents of Superintendent City were displaced into some housing that was won through the struggle of that camp. Similar to the housing that was won by the struggle of this camp. The 55 units of modular housing up the street would never have existed if it wasn't for people on the street banding together and fighting back and making homelessness visible and making it an issue that the government can't ignore. But the bitter side of this victory is that they shovel people into supportive housing where they have to deal with an ultimatum where you give up your rights and your autonomy in exchange for a roof over your head. That should not have to be a calculation that anyone has to make. Supportive housing is a recent invention by the Rich Coleman's BC Liberal BC Housing. And it was only under Rich Coleman and the BC Liberals that supportive housing came to exist as a system. the BC NDP should overturn this system and go back to just providing social housing so that people can get the supports that they actually need. The issue is that people don't have the supports that they need anywhere in our communities. Women do not have access to anti-violence support. They do not have access to women and children's shelters. There is no access to therapy. You have to go to a psychiatrist and get drugs in order to get support for to deal with your traumas. Rather than support those that meet people with the health care issues they actually ask for, they create supportive housing, which offers no actual supports, only institutional power. Now, our next speaker is Mel, who is a resident of camp and right now a resident of the mattress store. And Mel's going to talk about what really causes the fire dangers in Anita Place. Throughout 2 years, there were 6 fires in Anita Place, Tent City. But in the week after the police raids happened last weekend, there were 3 fires. 3 catastrophic fires. They weren't caused by a concern for fire safety. They were caused by the fire department sabotaging people's mechanisms that they developed in order to be safer.
Hi, how's it going? They could have dealt with this a long time ago. Nobody had to lose any of their homes. None of these fires had to be started. They could have gave us power. You can give trees in the city of Maple Ridge 2 personal outlets for every tree to put Christmas lights. But they tell us they can't give us power. No, they won't give us power. We try to get our own, they shut us down. We want heat. We handle it out here. We try living in minus weather with no heat. You freeze to death, right? It sucks. It sucks being cold every night. I've lost feeling in my fingers. I have permanent damage to my nerves in my hands. I can't feel them anymore. Literally, there's like when you wake up and you can't move, and you literally want to die because it's so cold. It sucks, right? Oh, I know people are getting frostbite. Like I've already lost half of a limb. It would suck to lose more. I don't want to, right? I have the right. I should have the right to be warm at night. I should, like, they won't give us propane. Why? They say it's about fire safety, but yet still the alarms in our bathrooms haven't worked for over a year. It's nothing to do with fire safety, or that would have been the first thing they dealt with. So maybe we should get our priorities straight and actually care about the fire safety and not just freezing us to death. Thanks.